Hi everyone, it's Sam, NFTstatistics, and this is your Proof Daily NFT Countdown. A lot to talk about today. Going to dive into the latest Art Blocks curated drop, which went very, very well. Going to talk a little bit about SuperRare Genesis passes. Magic Eden made some moves, a whole lot else. Let's get right into it. Starting off with a quick market overview. Volumes were basically flat. Not a whole lot to see there. Buyers did seem to have a nice little bump up versus the prior couple days, so that is nice to see. In terms of prices, large cap index down a fair bit. A bit of weakness in Pudgy Penguins, also some weakness in Gutter and Doodles. Just looking at Pudgy Penguins, we talked about this, how they had that random blur bump when they announced that they were going on Blend that immediately retraced. And basically ever since, you can see here, it's really been kind of down only. A lot of people dumping into bids, so never like to see that, but that's certainly the trend. Also want to talk about Milady, because I think Milady is one of the more interesting projects in the market right now. Just got a massive pump, both from Elon, from Blend, from airdrop farming, bidders, people, kind of a good secular story, a lot going on, and it really feels like it's giving a lot back. A few charts that really make me concerned about this project. What this chart here looks at is the total number of NFTs over the past 6 days that were dumped into Blur bids that had never been dumped into Blur bids before. And what you can see is more than 250 new NFTs that had never been dumped into bids. So longer term holders seeing the supply that's accumulating, seeing the weakness in price, saying, I'm going to get out. I got these bidders here who are going to take these off my hands and selling into it, just completely drowning out any other project when you look at this chart. The other piece is if you look at how many are currently on Blend, how many actually have loans against them, kind of across the price spectrum. There are over 550 NFTs from Milady on Blend. That's more than 200 more than the second most, which is Azuki with 332. So I think that it's kind of a pretty negative setup here. I always say supply attracts supply. When people see that someone dumps 150, like happened in Milady, they're more likely to sell because they know there probably aren't buyers for those and bidders are just absorbing them. Incentivized bidding does create exit liquidity. So if you miss that initial dump, you can still get out, and then you just get this snowball impact. I also always say that leverage leads to volatility in both directions. People can make their ETH go a lot further when they can get leverage. So you get volatility on the upside, but on the downside, when these loans start unwinding, that's more basically for sellers or people who don't want to hold, who end up selling. And then the last thing is NFTs are largely, I think, Veblen goods. Veblen goods basically means they get more attractive to buy as the price goes up, and as they go down, often means that they're less attractive. It's kind of a weird phenomenon in luxury goods, but I do think that NFTs follow that a lot. Back to prices, our mid-cap PFP index was up again. Strength in Rumble Kong, a kid called Beast. One project I did want to mention also was Hate Prime. When you look at this chart, it's kind of a ridiculous chart, but Hate Prime just announced that they were getting bought out for $12 million. $12 million feels like a lot of money for a project with a 0.25 ETH floor, not really on the radar screen of very many people, but impressive to see that. When you look at this chart, you can't really tell, but from this chart, you can see we did get a really nice little price bounce yesterday from 0.2 to 0.35. So something like a 70% bump. I think people are saying, we saw what Luca did with Pudgy Penguins. We saw what Oniforce, what happened there when they got bought out. This can be a positive. You get new people looking at the IP. Maybe we'll get a pump in Hate Prime. So gotta love to see that. In terms of art blocks, we're kind of back to where we were before the pump in terms of volume. Only 2 projects did more than 10 ETH of volume. Had a really nice Squiggle sale. This is one of the first 300 Squiggles. The early Squiggles, those day oneers, have a premium. So, but I really like that one. That's a 15 ETH sale, a 6.1 ETH Meridian sale. So kind of again going below the floor. An anti-cyclone here for 6.5, and this Hongbao kind of memories of Qilin palette, which I really love. 5.3 ETH sold above the floor as that palette often does. Second story to talk about, Human Unreadable, the recent Art Blocks curated drop, just completely popped off. One of the first Art Blocks projects we've seen pop off in a little while. Here are the 2 biggest sales. On the left, 4.21. On the right, 3.5. And you can see there's kind of a foot figure in the one on the right. There's a human figure in the one on the left. These all really incorporate kind of the human image into the generative art. These are the artists. Operator is the name. A little bit about this project. It is a 3-act generative art project, basically focusing on the human body, bringing together choreography, code, blockchain, and more. Now, there are 3 steps to it. First, you get your art block. The second thing they're going to do is they're going to uncover the choreography score because they used the choreography score, took images of that, and that is what appears in the art. Okay, so that's going to be a reveal that actually is going to come as an NFT, which is going to be connected with your art block piece. And then the third thing is a final performance, which will be at a later date. They also said that the first 100 minted pieces, so number 2 through 101, are going to be performed in the IRL, in real life premiere at an art institution. So kind of a nice little perk for those lower serial or those lower token IDs. I don't know. I think this is overall just kind of a very new project. We saw 6529 buy a bunch. We saw Pranksy sweep. Kevin Abosh, I believe, has been buying a lot. So some big people have been buying. If you look at how the prices have moved, you can see we still, the mint was at 0.9 ETH. You initially got a big pump, went up to about 2 ETH. Then there really wasn't much volume. And what happened in the morning, by that turquoise arrow on the right, is Pranksy swept. And when Pranksy swept, the price went from 1.5 to 2.2. You can't see it here, but last I checked, it's actually at a 2.7 ETH floor. So seeing a lot of success there. Congrats to Operator. And again, go to Proof Podcast. Check out Eli's interview with the artist. We released it yesterday, I believe. Definitely worth checking out. Third thing to talk about, Magic Eden makes moves. Here's a tweet from Magic Eden. They said, welcome to chapter 2. It's time to make some changes. What are the changes they are making? First of all, they're aggregating other exchanges where holders can basically manage their listings on other exchanges and buy off of other exchanges, very similar to what Blur has done. Second thing, they're open sourcing their marketplace contract, so making it available to all, others can work on it. Third, they're opening up an API, making it a much more elaborate API for other people to use. And then lastly, they are now paying people 0.25% for listings and bids that fill. This is called a maker's fee. Basically, if you list your NFT and someone buys it, they're giving a 0.25% bonus to you as the seller. And if you put a bid in and someone hits it, you will get a very small refund on that NFT. So why is this happening here? Why is Magic Eden right now, a year and a half, 2 years after their launch, making these big changes? I think the biggest reason is that Magic Eden long had monopoly. Okay, and when they had a monopoly, these are things that you wouldn't want to do if you had a monopoly. You wouldn't want to send your users to other exchanges. If you have strong margins and people still use you, you wouldn't want to give back, 0.25% on every single trade. Open source removes some of your competitive advantage in your IP. So these are things that a monopoly wouldn't do. But now that the space has become so much more competitive, Magic Eden has lost a lot of share. I think they need to do these things to promote activity, to keep them connected, and just to keep them competitive with what the other projects are doing. I think the listing and bidding rewards kind of has similarities to Blur incentives. I think there are a few things that make it very, very different. Like Magic Eden, you actually only get paid the incentive if you actually trade. Also, the incentive is much lower, 0.25%. It is also, I think, a very known small amount, where I think with Blur, a lot of the intrigue is the fact that people actually don't know what it's worth, and that leads to mystery, which for some reason I think always helps. Here's the market share chart that you can see that basically Magic Eden used to really have a monopoly if you go towards the end of 2022. And right now they're pretty substantially below 50%, largely due to TensorFlow, which has kind of become the Blur of Solana and taken a lot of share. Moving on to the next topic, Squiggles charity auction. Really quickly, what basically happened here, as we know, Chromie Squiggles have only minted out about 98% of the project. So there's still 2%, which hasn't minted, where you don't know what you're going to get. And Snowfro donated 10 unminted Squiggles to basically do an auction, a charity auction, which benefits ALS research. They minted them all out. That auction's been ongoing, and they minted those, and that completed yesterday. Here you can see from Vertical Crypto Art, 89 participants, more than 230 bids, and a 2-hour bidding war. Anytime you bid with time up, it extended 10 minutes to the clock, and you can see that kind of led to a bidding war at the end. In terms of what the prices were, they went from anywhere from 18 to 19.9 ETH. Keyboard Monkey got a couple. Nullinger, Mike from Germany, he got one, and a few other friends all kind of bought some of these unminted Squiggles. Now, if you look at this chart, this shows when the minted Squiggles actually happened. You can see that, the vast majority happened, in the beginning, about 90%. And since then, just every now and then, Snowfro will give out 10 to be minted. Here are the ones that were minted. Kind of a nice looking group of Squiggles, but nothing all that grail. One fuzzy, a couple ribs, but nothing that was all that crazy like when SquiggleDAO got 10 and they just got hypers and a bunch of the absolute top tier. Why were these selling for 19 ETH though, when the floor price of Squiggles is about 10 or 11 ETH right now? And the reason is because you don't know what you're going to get. There's a chance that you get a pipe. There's a chance that you get a hyper or something that is incredibly valuable. It turns out that I think all of these kind of came out probably a little bit below that 19 ETH price point where they came at. Just a couple conclusions: 186 ETH raised. Most likely, these did not hit the value of what they were paid for. I think you had two things. One is a charity premium. It's nice to pay up when you're paying for charity. And two is what I call a gambler's premium. There's that chance you get something great, so you pay up a little bit. There are 227 squiggles left to be minted. At this price point, that's more than 4,000 ETH worth. So definitely a very valuable asset that Snow4 has. Will be interesting to see how that plays out. And then lastly, let's talk about a couple notable sales. Another Opepen edition from those first 80 sold for 25 ETH. If you look at the 4 that have sold for the most, you can see they've kind of been in this 19 to 25 ETH range. All those Jack Butcher designs. And 3 of these 4 are the 1 of 40s. You had one of the 1 of 10 that sold for a little bit for 24.69, but nice to see that. These are definitely becoming grails. Another interesting sale was where there's a sweep of 5 SuperRare Genesis passes for 15 to 22 ETH. Really just a huge buy there. Remember, this is a project that SuperRare does. They've brought on 24 different artists to create art that the holders of these passes get. Let's look a little bit at these projects. You have Decoherence by Pinder Van Arman around a 3 ETH floor. Talking Heads by Goldie, a 0.69 floor. A couple other ones kind of below 0.2 ETH, but these are 4 of the drops that have already happened so far. And then these two, the 2 most recent, Temporal by the Sarah Show, 0.69 ETH, and then Experiments by Otherwood, 1.4 ETH. So the 2 most recent have had actually pretty good value. If you add it all up, owners of these Genesis passes, thus now with half of it done, have gotten about 6 ETH of floor price value. The other piece is that other 1 of 1s have gotten raffled. So Die With The Most Likes raffled off 3 pieces, Alien Queen, 3 pieces, and a few others. So you also, as a holder, get a 3 out of 25 chance, almost a 1 out of 80 chance of getting 1 of 1 or 1 of 3, whatever it is, from some of these absolute top artists. There's more ahead. Sam Spratt, Matt Kane, Drifter Shoots, Xcopy, OSF, some serious artists who are coming up. Maybe people, are buying now because of Xcopy. Who knows? But interesting to see those sales. Congrats to SuperRare as well as the buyers and sellers there. And lastly, let's talk about one artist I haven't talked about before, Brolket. This piece called Utility. It sold for 3 ETH. Here are a couple other sales that he has had processed for 3 ETH, one for 3.575 ETH. Now, these pieces, again, got to go to SuperRare, got to go to OpenSea to check them out. These are gifts. They have a lot of movement, kind of this glitch art feel. Reminds me a little bit of Bongdo, but kind of this red, black, and white. Really kind of interesting stuff. Worth checking out. The artist here is thanking the buyer. He says, art is a utility. This one piece was called Utility. Basically has the image, you kind of holding up art in the piece. But this was a 1 of 1 piece that was commissioned by CCW Mode. So a commissioned piece for 3 ETH, kind of right at the high end of where this artist has sold before. So congrats to the artist. Congrats to CCW Mode, the buyer. Beautiful sale. That is all from me today. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you liked it, give us a like. Tell us what you think in the comments. We'll be back tomorrow and every weekday with another show. Have a great day.